It begins in silence. A slow breath of dawn spreads over the fields of Latium, where the mist still clings to the damp grass. You are not yet a soldier, not yet a man of the empire, only a young Roman, standing in the shadow of your father's worn sandals, waiting for the day the Republic calls your name. The sun rises over terracotta rooftops, painting them in soft gold. From a distance, you can hear the faint ringing of blacksmith hammers, the cries of merchants calling out their morning wares: olives, bread, salted fish. The air smells of smoke and earth. Rome is waking, and so are you. Your home is modest. A single room built of clay and timber with a hearth that rarely burns brightly. Your mother kneels near it, whispering a prayer to Vesta for your safety. She doesn't say the words aloud, but you can feel them in the silence. Come back alive. You've heard tales of glory, of Caesar's legions marching across Gaul, of standards glinting under a foreign sun, of drums echoing through conquered valleys. To a boy, those stories are dreams made of bronze and honor. But to a man, they are heavy with blood and hunger. Today, you are no longer a boy. A messenger arrived last night, bearing a wax-sealed notice with your name scratched upon it. Your time has come. You are to report to the nearest training ground by noon. There, you will swear the oath, sacramentum, binding you for 25 long years to the Roman army. The thought makes your stomach twist. 25 years. By the time you return, your hair will be gray, your home may be gone, your city changed. But in Rome, duty outweighs fear. Service to the empire is not a choice. It is the path carved by destiny. You wrap your tunic tighter and step outside. The air is still cool, but the day is warming. Dust rises beneath your sandals as you walk the narrow road leading to the outskirts of the city. The Via Appia stretches beyond, an endless ribbon of stone that vanishes into the hills. You imagine legions marching there, thousands of men in perfect formation, their shields flashing in rhythm, the ground trembling beneath their boots. Soon, you will be one of them. At the training camp, the first thing that greets you is not the sight of soldiers, but the sound, the harsh commands of centurions, the grunts of recruits dragging heavy logs, the rhythmic clash of wooden swords against shields. The air is thick with sweat and dust. A man approaches, tall, scarred, his armor shining with the dull polish of constant battle. His eyes measure you as if weighing a piece of bronze. Name? He asks. You stammer it out. He nods once, then points toward a group of new recruits. You're with them. Strip off your tunic. You won't need it for long. You join the others. Boys like you, though some are older, harder. Some look frightened, others eager. The centurion watches you all with silent contempt. Forget your homes, he says. Forget your mothers. From this moment, Rome is your family. The first days are a blur of exhaustion. Training begins before dawn and ends only after nightfall. You learn to march until your legs tremble, to lift a shield that feels heavier with every hour, to drive a wooden sword into a straw dummy until your arms burn. The centurions shout until their voices crack. Discipline is everything. There is no room for weakness. Food is coarse, barley porridge, a little salted pork, a splash of sour wine. You eat standing because sitting would make you too comfortable. Comfort is the enemy. Comfort softens men. At night, when the fires burn low, you lie awake staring at the stars. You can still hear the rhythm of marching feet in your mind, left, right, the heartbeat of Rome. You think of home, of your mother's prayer, of the quiet hills where you used to walk. But sleep does not come easily. The straw beneath you scratches, and the cold bites through your blanket. Still, there's a strange kind of peace in the discipline, a sense that you are becoming something greater than yourself. Days turn into weeks. The drills grow harsher. You learn to fight as a unit, to hold your shield edge to edge with the man beside you. Alone, a legionary is nothing. Together, you are a wall of iron. The centurion teaches you the importance of silence. A Roman does not boast, he says. He endures, and you endure. The blisters on your hands harden into calluses. The ache in your shoulders fades into strength. You begin to move with the rhythm of the legion. One voice, one will. One evening, you are summoned to the parade ground. The entire cohort stands in formation, the setting sun bleeding red over the horizon. A figure steps forward, the legatus, commander of your legion. His voice carries across the field like the roll of distant thunder. "Recruits," he says, "you have survived training. But training is not war. Tomorrow you will march south to Capua, and from there across the sea. Beyond that, I will not say. You will go where Rome commands." A murmur ripples through the ranks. Your heart pounds. This is the moment you have dreamed of, and dreaded. The thought of leaving the safety of the training ground fills you with both pride and fear. That night, as you pack your gear, the gladius, the scutum, the simple cloak, you touch each item with reverence. These are now your life. Your sword is not yet blooded, but you can feel its weight, the potential it carries. In the faint glow of the fire, you polish the metal until it reflects your face. A boy's face still, though the eyes look older now. Sleep comes slowly. The camp is quiet except for the crackle of dying embers. You think of the words of your centurion. Rome is your family. You wonder if that means Rome will remember you when you're gone. Before dawn, the horn sounds. You rise with the others, gather your pack, and form the line. The morning mist hangs low over the ground as the legion begins to march. The rhythmic pounding of thousands of feet fills the air. It is the sound of empire. The road stretches endlessly ahead, carved from ancient stone, worn smooth by centuries of soldiers before you. Each step feels heavier than the last, yet somehow lighter too. Because now you march with purpose. You are part of something vast, something eternal. The countryside rolls past. Vineyards, olive groves, distant villas, all belonging, in one way or another, to Rome. The locals stop to watch as the legion passes. Children wave, farmers bow their heads. You feel their eyes on you, not as a person, but as a symbol, a piece of the great machine that holds the world together. By midday, the sun burns high, and the armor feels like fire against your skin. Sweat drips into your eyes. You are told not to wipe it. A soldier does not show weakness, the centurion reminds you. So you stare ahead, jaw clenched, vision blurring with heat. When the order to halt finally comes, you drop your pack and collapse beside it, chest heaving. Around you, the men fall into silence, each lost in his own exhaustion. Somewhere in the distance, a lark sings, the only soft sound in a world of iron. That night, the stars return, brighter now away from the city. The camp is alive with quiet murmurs, men mending straps, sharpening blades, whispering of home. You listen, but do not speak. You are thinking of the sea, of what lies beyond, of the foreign lands that the legions have conquered and the ones yet to be claimed. A centurion passes, his shadow long against the firelight. "Sleep well," he says, though you know rest will be brief. Tomorrow, the ships await. You close your eyes. The crackle of fire fades into the sound of waves. Somewhere deep inside, you feel both fear and pride entwined. The heartbeat of a soldier of Rome, the quiet before the storm. The road ends where the sea begins. You stand upon the shore at Ostia, Rome's ancient port, where the Tiber meets the wide expanse of the Tyrrhenian Sea. The horizon is pale with morning mist, and ships rock gently in the tide, their sails furled like folded wings. The air smells of salt and tar, of wet rope and oiled wood. For many of the recruits, it is their first sight of the ocean. You can hear them murmuring to one another, voices low, half awe, half fear. Rome is mighty, but even the empire bows to the sea. The centurions bark orders, herding you toward the gangplanks like cattle. You carry your gear as if it weighs the world, the scutum pressing against your shoulder, the gladius slapping against your thigh. The ship that will bear you across is no grand galley of marble and paint. It is a troop transport, narrow, dark, its deck slick with seawater. The planks creak with every wave. You step aboard and immediately feel the motion beneath your feet, that slow, uneasy sway. The thought crosses your mind. Men were not made for the sea. The centurion's shout cuts through the wind. "Keep your footing, recruits. Rome doesn't care if you drown before you see battle." the ship's crew moves like a machine. Ropes thrown, sails hoisted, the rhythmic chant of oarsmen echoing from below deck. Slowly, the port drifts away. The towers of Ostia shrink. The coastline softens into a blur. All that remains is the endless heave of gray water. The voyage begins. Days blend together, measured not by hours, but by the rhythm of the waves. The deck is cramped. The smell of sweat and salt fills the air. Food is hard bread and dried figs, sometimes fish if fortune allows. You sleep where you sit, your back against your pack, the sound of the sea like a restless heartbeat beneath you. At night, when the stars burn over the black water, you listen to the creak of the hull and the whispers of the men. Some pray to Neptune for safe passage. Others mutter about omens, a gull following the ship, the moon haloed with mist. Superstition runs deep among soldiers. In silence, you touch the small charm your mother gave you before you left, a coin stamped with the face of Jupiter, and hope the gods still listen. A storm finds you on the fourth night. The sky splits with lightning, the sea turns to chaos. Waves crash over the deck, soaking everything in salt and darkness. The ship groans like a wounded beast. Men cling to the railings, eyes wide with terror. Somewhere in the dark, someone shouts a prayer. Another curses his fate. The centurion's voice roars above it all. Hold the line! You will not shame Rome with your fear. You grip the mast until your hands ache, rain stinging your eyes. The world is nothing but sound, the roar of water, the shriek of wind, the thunder's angry drum. And yet, beneath the terror, there is something else. A strange calm. The realization that this is what it means to serve Rome, to face the chaos of the world and not falter. When dawn comes, the sea lies quiet again, as if the storm had never been. The men move like ghosts, silent, hollow-eyed. One oarsman is gone, washed away in the night. The centurion orders his name marked in the rolls, then nothing more. The sea gives, and the sea takes. By midday, a dark line appears on the horizon. Land. The cry passes through the ranks. Italia behind us. Hispania ahead. Your ship drifts into a new world. The coast of Hispania stretches before you. Rugged cliffs, wild forests, the promise of war and glory. The Legion disembarks, boots sinking into foreign sand. The air smells different here, sharper, full of pine and iron. Orders come quickly. You are to march inland toward a Roman fort near Tarraco, where you will join the rest of the Legion. The campaign is not yet fully explained, but the whispers say it involves a rebellion among the northern tribes, fierce people who fight from the mountains, who do not fear Rome. The march inland feels endless. The roads are rough, carved through rock and forest, the hills steep and unyielding. Each day begins with the blast of a horn and ends with the digging of a ditch. For every Roman camp is built from the ground up, walls of earth and timber raised before the men sleep. The engineers measure, the soldiers dig, the centurions pace. Discipline is law. Your body aches, but the rhythm of the march becomes its own kind of meditation. Step, breathe, the clink of armor, the rattle of shields, the low hum of command. The Legion moves like a living creature, one mind, one heart. You learn to trust the man beside you without question. When you fall behind, he steadies you. When he stumbles, you carry his pack. The bond of legionaries is forged not in blood, but in fatigue, in the quiet moments when survival depends on unity. At night, the camp glows with small fires. The scent of cooking grain fills the air. Men mend their sandals, polish their helmets, whisper of home. Somewhere, someone plays a soft tune on a flute, a melody that feels both Roman and foreign, carried on the wind. The centurion visits each tent, checking weapons, counting supplies. When he reaches yours, he pauses. First campaign? He asks. You nod. Then remember this. Fear is normal, but let no man see it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the silence that hides it. You nod again, unsure if you believe him. Yet his words linger, quiet as embers. Weeks pass. The terrain grows harsher. Hills rise into jagged peaks. Forests thicken into dark labyrinths of oak and pine. The enemy is unseen, but always near. You feel it in the rustle of branches, the sudden flight of birds. Scouts vanish, and when they return, they bring stories of ambushes, of arrows from the shadows, of villages burned. Then one dawn, the order comes. Prepare for engagement. The Legion forms ranks along a valley road, shields up, standards raised. You can hear the distant sound of horns echoing from the hills, the enemy calling to each other in their harsh, guttural tongue. The air tastes of iron. Your heart pounds. You tighten your grip on the shield handle, fingers slick with sweat. The centurion walks the line, his voice calm and cold. Remember your training. Shields together. Do not break formation. Rome stands because her walls do not fall. The first arrows come silently, a whisper of death through the air, a dull thud as they strike shields and armor. Then the war cries begin, fierce, wild, echoing through the valley. From the tree line, figures burst forth, men clad in furs, faces painted, weapons flashing. The tribes have come to drive Rome out of their lands. The command rings out, advance. You move forward in perfect rhythm, shields locked, gladius ready. The ground trembles with each step. The enemy rushes down the slope, screaming. The clash is sudden and terrible, the sound of metal on metal, of wood splintering, of men shouting, dying. You stab, not swing. A Roman sword is short, meant for thrusting. The enemy charges wildly, hacking with long blades, but your formation holds. You do not see faces, only motion, flashes of light, bursts of pain. Someone beside you falls and another fills the gap. The machine of Rome never stops. Minutes stretch into eternity. The world narrows to breath and blood. The smell of sweat and iron fills your lungs. You feel your arm grow heavy, your shield dented, your knees trembling. But you keep fighting because there is nothing else to do. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ends. The enemy breaks. They scatter into the forest, leaving their dead behind. The centurion raises his sword. Hold position! You stand in silence, chest heaving, the ringing of battle still echoing in your ears. Around you, men groan, tend to wounds, retrieve fallen comrades. The earth is dark with blood. You realize with a strange kind of shock that you are still alive. The gladius in your hand is red. You stare at it, at the trembling reflection of your own face in the metal. You have killed. You have survived. That night, the campfire burns lower than usual. No one speaks loudly. The laughter of training days is gone. You sit apart, staring into the flames, your hands still shaking. Across the fire, the centurion watches you. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. The silence says enough. When the moon rises, you lie back on the cold earth. The stars seem sharper here, colder. You think of home again, of your mother's voice, of the warmth of the hearth, of the peace you will never feel the same way again. And yet, somewhere beneath the sorrow, there is pride. You have done what Rome asked of you. You have faced death and stood firm. You are a legionary now, not in name, but in truth. The wind whispers through the trees. The fires burn low. You close your eyes. Tomorrow will bring another march, another order, another battle. But for now, you let the world fade into quiet. The rhythm of the empire still beating faintly in your chest. Sleep, soldier of Rome. The world will move on, and history will remember not your name, but your endurance. Morning comes slowly, filtered through a pale mist that hangs over the valley like a shroud. The fires from the night before have burned down to faint embers, sending thin streams of smoke curling into the damp air. The battlefield lies silent now, still and heavy. What had been chaos only hours ago is now a graveyard. You wake to the sound of distant crows. The camp stirs around you, men rising stiffly, some limping, some whispering in low voices. No one laughs. No one boasts. War has stripped away the illusions of glory. What remains is exhaustion, a deep, aching quiet that settles into the bones. You sit up, feeling the weight of your armor pressing against sore shoulders. Every movement hurts. Your hands are raw from gripping the shield. When you look at your palms, you see blisters broken open, dried with dirt and blood. They don't even sting anymore. Pain has become part of you now, like breath. Around you, soldiers move with a grim rhythm, gathering weapons, checking armor, stacking the shields of the fallen. The The centurion's voice carries through the fog, calm but firm. Burn what you cannot bury. Rome leaves no trace of defeat. You join a small group tasked with clearing the field. It feels wrong at first. Walking among the bodies, stepping over limbs and shields, seeing faces that were shouting beside you only yesterday. Some are your comrades, others are enemies. In death they look the same, eyes open, staring at nothing. A veteran kneels beside one of the dead, removing a ring from the man's finger. He won't need it, he mutters. Better Rome takes it than the vultures. His tone isn't cruel, just practical. Survival, even after battle, is still a kind of war. By midday, the smoke from burning pyres darkens the sky. The smell is thick, almost sweet, and clings to your hair and clothes. You try not to breathe too deeply. You try not to think about what's burning. When the last fires fade, the order comes to move out. The Legion forms up again, smaller now, gaps where men once stood. The standards rise, banners fluttering weakly in the wind. You march forward because that is what soldiers do, always forward. The road winds through forest and field, each step taking you farther from the dead, though never far enough. The world feels quieter now. Even the birds seem to keep their distance. You walk in silence, listening to the sound of armor scraping, boots thudding, leather creaking. It's almost soothing, the steady rhythm of men who have no choice but to keep moving. After several days of marching, you reach a fortified Roman camp perched upon a low ridge overlooking a river. The fort is orderly, geometric, ditches dug in perfect lines, wooden walls sharp and clean. Rome brings its structure everywhere, even to the edge of chaos. Inside the fort, the atmosphere is different. Veterans nod as you enter, their expressions unreadable. They've seen new soldiers arrive before, fresh, shaken, changed. They know what you've just endured. You are assigned to a new contubernium, a tent of 8 men. The small leather shelter smells of oil, sweat, and dust. Inside, each man keeps his kit neatly arranged: armor, weapons, cloak, sandals, small personal tokens from home. These are the pieces of identity that remain when everything else is stripped away. At night, you sit with them around the campfire. The flames flicker across tired faces. A pot of lentils simmers, and someone passes around a skin of wine. The conversation is quiet, broken by long silences. One man, a Gaul who speaks Latin with a thick accent, tells a story about his first campaign. How he was terrified, how he thought he'd never survive. Then you stop thinking, he says, staring into the fire. You just do what you must. That's the Roman way. You stop being you. Another soldier laughs softly. You stop being you, he repeats, and you become Rome. You don't speak, but you understand what they mean. Each day, the line between yourself and the Legion blurs a little more. The following weeks are filled with rebuilding. The Legion constructs roads, fortifications, supply depots. Rome does not rest, it builds. You learn to dig trenches, cut timber, shape stone. The work is relentless, but there is comfort in the repetition, order in the chaos. When you aren't working, you drill. The centurions insist on discipline even in calm. Formations are practiced again and again until they are muscle memory. March, turn, thrust, lock shields, hold. The human machine must never rust. Sometimes you think back to the first day you arrived at the training camp, how proud you felt to wear the uniform. That pride still exists, but it has changed. It's quieter now, tempered by loss. You no longer dream of glory. You dream of endurance, of simply surviving long enough to see another dawn. One afternoon, as you rest beside the river, you catch sight of your reflection in the water. The face staring back is leaner, harder. The eyes look older. You try to remember what you looked like before the march, before the storm, before the blood. You can't. That night, rain falls. It drums softly on the tent leather, a rhythm steady enough to lull you towards sleep. Around you, the other soldiers breathe heavily, lost in exhausted dreams. You lie awake, listening to the rain, thinking of home. You wonder if your mother still prays for you. You wonder if she would recognize you now. Dawn comes gray and cold. Orders arrive. The Legion will march north, deeper into enemy territory. The rebellion is spreading. The commanders want to strike before the tribes gather in full. As you pack your gear, you notice small offerings left near the camp altar. Coins, carved figures, bits of food. Soldiers making quiet bargains with the gods. You add your own, a piece of bread, and the same coin your mother gave you, for luck, for survival. The march north is slower. The terrain turns wild again, forests giving way to rocky hills, the paths little more than goat trails. Rain falls often, soaking cloaks and supplies. Mud clings to everything. Each step is labor. But still, the Legion moves forward, the red standards cutting through mist like fire. Days blur together. The fatigue becomes constant, no longer something you notice. When the order to halt comes each night, you dig the trench almost automatically. The sound of shovels biting into wet earth becomes the heartbeat of your life. One night, as you work, you hear laughter, rare and unexpected. You look up to see a few soldiers joking, tossing pebbles, teasing each other in hushed tones. For a moment, it feels almost human again, almost like life before the uniform. You catch yourself smiling. The centurion notices but says nothing. Maybe he understands. Later, as the fires die, he speaks quietly to the group. "You fought well before," he says. "You'll fight again. Remember, Rome endures because its soldiers endure, not because they love war, but because they obey." His words linger long after he leaves. The next morning, fog blankets the camp. Visibility is poor. Scouts have reported movement nearby, enemy warbands tracking the Legion's march. The centurions order double watches. You tighten your armor straps, check your sword edge, feel the familiar mix of fear and focus settle in your gut. By afternoon, the first skirmishes begin. Small attacks, arrows from the trees, stones hurled from cliffs. The Legion responds with precision. Testudo formation, shields overhead, slow advance. The enemy melts away into the mist each time, never staying to fight long. It's not war, it's harassment, but it wears on the men. After several days of this, the commanders decide to strike back. A detachment, including your cohort, is sent to flush out the ambushers. You march into the forest, the world closing around you with every step. The trees are tall and silent, the ground soft with fallen leaves. The light fades early under the canopy, turning everything to shadow. The ambush comes at dusk. A sudden whistle, then chaos. Arrows rain down. You raise your shield instinctively, hearing the sharp thuds as they strike. A soldier beside you falls with a cry. The centurion roars for formation, but the trees make order impossible. The enemy attacks in waves, fast, unseen, everywhere at once. You swing blindly, your sword cutting through the dimness. The noise is deafening. Shouts, screams, the clash of iron, the hiss of arrows. The forest becomes a cage of death. You lose sight of your unit, stumble, fall, rise again. Somehow the fighting drifts apart, small pockets of men regrouping. You find yourself with 3 others, a veteran, a standard bearer, and a young recruit no older than you were months ago. The veteran takes command instantly. "Back to the river," he says. "Regroup or we're dead." You follow him through the undergrowth, every step a battle. The forest feels alive with enemies. Movement everywhere, shadows flickering between the trees. You hear the recruit gasp, then fall. You don't look back. The veteran doesn't either. Survival is cruel. When you finally break through the tree line, the river lies before you, wide and dark under the moonlight. You collapse beside it, lungs burning. The veteran looks around, counting the missing. He doesn't speak. There's nothing to say. By morning, what remains of the cohort straggles back to camp, battered, bloodied, fewer in number. The commanders call it a victory because the enemy retreated, but you know better. Rome wins wars not because of triumphs, but because it refuses to admit loss. Days later, you are summoned with the survivors to stand before the centurion. He studies each of you, his face unreadable. Then he says, "You have seen what Rome requires. You have faced death and did not yield. Remember this, the empire is not stone or gold. It is flesh. It is you." That night, you sit alone by the river, the same one you crawled toward in darkness. The water moves slowly, carrying reflections of stars across its surface. You listen to the quiet, to the distant hum of the camp, and for the first time, you realize that the fear has dulled. Not gone, never gone, but quieter. You dip your hand into the river. The water is cold, pure. You wash your face, the dried blood and dirt peeling away. For a moment, you feel almost human again. Almost. Then you hear the horns, the call for assembly. Another march, another order. You stand, sling your pack over your shoulder, and walk back toward the campfires. The river flows on behind you, indifferent and eternal. You are a soldier of Rome, and Rome never sleeps. The years have passed like the gentle ebb of a distant tide. The boy who once left Rome with wide-eyed hope has grown into a man, tempered and marked by the relentless passage of campaigns. The scars on your body, both visible and invisible, tell stories that no words could fully capture. Each one is a memory of endurance, of survival, of the inexorable demands of Rome. The sun rises over the camp one final time before you are to return to the city you left as a youth. Its rays stretch across the stone walls and timber watchtowers, touching the worn faces of soldiers who have shared your journey, some of whom will march on without you, others who will never march again. You stand silently, watching them, feeling the weight of years and the peculiar emptiness that comes with leaving a world you have known only in war. Your armor, once heavy and awkward, now feels like an extension of your body. The shield, polished and scarred, bears the imprints of countless battles. Your gladius, dulled and chipped at the edge, rests comfortably at your side. You realize that these objects, once tools of survival, have become companions, silent witnesses to your transformation. The centurion approaches. His face is lined, older than the last time you saw him, but his eyes are the same, sharp, calculating, yet not without a trace of respect. "You have served well," he says, his voice low and deliberate. "Rome is stronger because of men like you. Remember that." You nod. The words are simple, but their weight settles deep into your chest. You have fought in distant valleys, marched across sun-scorched plains, crossed storm-tossed seas, and survived the unpredictable cruelty of both enemy and environment. You have endured when others faltered, and you have borne the loss of comrades whose absence haunts your dreams. As the order is given for your cohort to prepare for departure, you find yourself moving slowly. The world seems sharper now, each sound, each shadow, each gust of wind on your face resonating more vividly. The forests you once navigated with fear now feel like old friends. The rivers that carried your exhausted body through battle remain, quiet and eternal, as if indifferent to the human struggle that has unfolded upon their banks. The march back to Rome is a different rhythm than the one that carried you away. It is quieter, measured, contemplative. Men speak less. The younger recruits who arrived long after you left have been replaced with the next generation, and yet you feel a strange kinship with all of them. They are shadows of yourself, potential futures, echoes of the past you cannot forget. You think of the lives you touched and were touched by, the laughter in the mess tents, the whispered prayers to gods you barely understand, the fleeting moments of camaraderie between battles. They are memories now, polished by time, bittersweet in their clarity. On the road, you encounter villages that you have helped protect or subdue. The faces of civilians are familiar, but distant, as if you are seeing them through a veil of memory. Children glance at your uniform with wide eyes, some curious, some fearful. You see their parents in the lines etched across the skin, the hands roughened by labor, the eyes carrying a resilience that even Rome respects. At night, the campfires burn lower than they once did, and the conversations are muted. You lie awake, listening to the sounds of the world you are leaving behind. The whispering trees, the distant rivers, the wind brushing through tall grasses. The memories of battle rise unbidden, sharp and vivid. You recall the scream of a man as arrows struck him, the shouts echoing through misty valleys, the sudden silence that followed carnage. Yet within these recollections, there is a strange peace, a recognition that you have endured, and that you have carried the essence of Rome within you. As the gates of the city come into view, you feel an unfamiliar weight in your chest. Rome, so massive, so eternal, looms before you. The streets are busy with merchants and citizens, the familiar clatter of wheels on stone, the chatter of voices in the marketplace. And yet, you are no longer the same person who left these walls. The world has changed you. You have changed the world too, though perhaps in ways invisible to those who walk its streets, unaware of the sacrifices made for its stability. The ceremony of return is modest but solemn. Fellow veterans recognize your face and nod with respect. Young recruits look up to you, some with awe, others with curiosity. You feel the dissonance between the admiration you receive and the quiet despair of remembering those who cannot return. They remain in the shadow of history, honored in the folds of memory, their names etched into the invisible ledger of Rome's endless story. You walk along the familiar streets, feeling the uneven stones beneath your feet. The marketplace bustles, and you pause to watch a merchant barter with a farmer over grain. The smell of bread, roasted meats, and olive oil fills your senses. You close your eyes briefly, inhaling deeply, grounding yourself in the ordinary pleasures of life. Smells and sights that were once insignificant, now luminous in their simplicity. Night falls. The city is bathed in torchlight. You stand atop the Palatine Hill, gazing down at the Forum, the columns, the basilicas, the temples, all that power, all that history, all that continuity. Rome is eternal. You have contributed your years, your blood, your endurance to the empire, and yet it moves on without pause, indifferent to individual sacrifices. And yet, in that indifference, there is beauty, a lesson that survival is not merely personal, but a thread in the vast fabric of existence. You find yourself wandering the streets alone, past statues of long-dead emperors, past the echo of speeches in marble forums, past the faint flicker of lamps in quiet alleys. The city hums around you, and in that hum, you recognize the pulse that has guided you through decades of service. The pulse of Rome, relentless, patient, eternal. Memories arise unbidden. Nights spent listening to the river, hours drilling in endless formations, the first march into enemy territory, the faces of men you led, followed, or lost. Each memory carries a lesson: patience, endurance, discipline, the quiet courage of doing one's duty. You sit in silence, letting the memories flow like a river through your mind. You remember the boy who first stepped into a legionary camp, eager, naive, untested. You remember the man who marched through storms, through blood and fire, through loss and exhaustion. And now you remember the veteran who returns to the city he once left, carrying the weight of decades in every muscle, every scar, every thought. In the quiet of your room, the candle flickers and the shadows stretch along the walls. You feel the ache of muscles no longer in daily use, the pangs of old wounds, the subtle tremor of time's passing. Yet you are alive. You are here. And there is a serenity in that realization, the satisfaction of having endured, of having fulfilled the duty assigned to you by birth, by law, by the empire itself. Sleep comes slowly that night. You hear the distant laughter of children in the streets, the faint hum of the marketplace settling into night, the whisper of wind over the roofs. You close your eyes, and for the first time in decades, you do not feel the immediacy of orders, the weight of shields, or the pressure of marching. You feel only yourself, only your breath, only the steady, enduring rhythm of life continuing, impervious to the turbulence of history and war. You dream of past campaigns, fog-laden forests, sun-scorched plains, rivers dark with reflection and blood. But in your dream, the horror is muted. The faces of friends lost are soft and kind. The cries of battle are distant, and the fear is replaced by understanding. You are reminded that memory, like Rome, endures because it is shaped and reshaped by those who survive. And in the quiet depths of that sleep, you realize survival is not merely the act of enduring the world's cruelties. Survival is living with the echoes of those cruelties, carrying them with grace, and finding a measure of peace at the end of the day, knowing that your life, your choices, and your sacrifices have contributed to the vast, unending story of Rome. You will wake with the dawn, as you always have. You will walk the streets of the city among men who never knew the trials you endured, among children who will inherit the world shaped by soldiers like you. And though your body is weary and your soul scarred, you carry within you the quiet knowledge of survival, the endurance of duty, and the unshakable rhythm of history moving onward. Time has slowed to a pace that your body and mind finally recognize. You are no longer a young recruit marching into the unknown, nor a battle-hardened soldier at the edge of exhaustion. You have returned older, wiser, shaped by decades of service, yet still bound invisibly to the rhythm of Rome. Your home is modest, a small house near the edge of the city, where the hum of life continues without pause. You walk along the streets at dawn, hearing the familiar clatter of carts on stone, merchants arranging their wares, children laughing as they chase one another through the alleys. The world is ordinary, yet you see it differently now. Every sound, every smell, every shadow holds the quiet weight of your experience. You rise with the sun, as you have done for decades, but now without the pressure of orders or the weight of armor. Your body remembers the countless marches and battles, knees stiff, back sore, hands rough with years of labor and service. Yet in the absence of war, these aches are gentle reminders of endurance, not warnings of immediate peril. At the hearth, you prepare a simple meal: bread, olives, a bit of cheese, and a cup of watered wine. As you eat, your thoughts drift to the years gone by. The forests of Hispania, the riverbanks soaked with rain and blood, the fog-laden valleys where enemy arrows hissed through the air. You recall the men who stood beside you, some lost to history, others scattered across distant lands. Their faces appear in memory, their voices echoing in the silence of your home. You often take long walks along the roads outside the city, the same paths you once marched countless times with the Legion. The countryside has changed, but it has also remained the same. Fields of wheat, groves of olives, rivers winding slowly toward the sea. Occasionally, you stop to rest by a riverbank, dipping your hands into the cool, clear water. The sensation is grounding, a connection to the earth, a reminder that life continues despite the weight of human endeavors. Sometimes, children pass by, curious about the old man with eyes that have seen too much. They ask questions about armor, about battles, about Rome. You answer slowly, choosing your words carefully. You speak of discipline, of endurance, of duty, but never of glory. Glory is transient. Duty endures. Their faces light up with wonder, and you feel the gentle satisfaction of passing knowledge to the next generation, ensuring that memory persists in forms beyond personal survival. At night, the city quiets. Torches flicker along the streets, and the distant hum of conversation fades into the rhythm of nocturnal life. You sit by your window, looking out over the rooftops, tracing the lines of stone and clay that have stood for centuries. The thought comes unbidden. Rome itself is a legionary. Each stone, each column, each citizen is a soldier in its own enduring way. And like the Legion, it survives because it endures, not because it is untested, but because it withstands, adapts, and persists. Your dreams are long now, flowing through memory like a gentle river. You revisit the forests of northern Hispania, the cold, misted hills, the chaotic thunder of arrows raining down from hidden cliffs. You see comrades, their faces vivid, their laughter and their courage echoing across time. The fear that once consumed you has dulled, replaced by understanding. You know that you survived not because you were invincible, but because you learned to move with the current of events, to trust your training, to endure the trials imposed upon you by fate and empire. Sometimes, sleep carries you to quieter times, the campfires at dusk, the smell of cooking lentils, the soft murmur of men whispering about home, about wives and mothers, about hope and loss. You lie beside the embers, feeling the warmth seep into your bones, listening to the night and knowing that life continues even in the darkest shadows. The letters from the old centurions arrive occasionally. Simple greetings, brief words of counsel, One writes of the campaigns winding down, of new soldiers taking up the standards, of Rome expanding and contracting as it always has. Another recounts the death of a comrade, reminding you that loss is the constant companion of survival. These letters are treasured, kept carefully folded beside your bed, their ink faded, but their meaning enduring. You visit the temples sometimes, not in prayer, but in contemplation. Jupiter, Mars, Vesta. Their presences are more symbolic than divine, reminders of the order and structure that governed your life. You walk among the columns, touching stone polished by centuries, feeling the resonance of countless footsteps before you, many of them soldiers like yourself. You realize that your own passage through time is now part of that enduring pattern. The seasons pass with predictable grace. You watch the spring bring blossoms, the summer shine over fields, the autumn leaves drift down in quiet celebration of decay and renewal, and winter wrap the city in frost and muted light. In each season, you recognize the same cycle that defined your service: preparation, endurance, conflict, and rest. Life, like war, is a series of repetitions, each echoing the last, yet each subtly different. Friends visit, fellow veterans who have also survived the years. Conversations are quiet, reflective, sometimes tinged with grief, always imbued with respect for what has been endured. They speak of the younger generations, of the world beyond Rome, of the responsibilities of citizenship and memory. You listen, contributing what you can, recognizing that teaching, like service, is a form of endurance. At night, you sometimes sit by the window, listening to the distant sounds of the city. Children playing, the hum of water in fountains, the faint echo of footsteps along stone streets. You close your eyes, letting these sounds wash over you, grounding you in the continuity of existence. You feel the pulse of history beneath the rhythm of daily life, subtle and persistent, unbroken by time. And there is a strange peace in it. The man who left Rome with wide eyes and naive dreams has returned, scarred and tempered, yet alive. The battles are behind you, but their lessons remain, engraved in your body, in your mind, in the quiet understanding that survival is not merely a personal triumph, but a thread in the fabric of history itself. In the evenings, when the candle flickers low and shadows stretch long across your walls, you reflect on the totality of your journey. You see the boy who first donned the armor, eager for glory. You see the young soldier marching across foreign lands, fighting and surviving, learning the hard lessons of duty and endurance. You see the veteran returning to a quiet city, carrying the memories and scars of decades, reconciled with the impermanence of life and the permanence of history. And as sleep finally descends, soft and unhurried, you let the world fade away. You dream not of battles, but of continuity, the rhythm of Rome, the endurance of the Legion, the quiet flow of rivers and seasons, and the gentle certainty that your life, your service, and your survival are all part of something greater than yourself. You are a soldier of Rome, and Rome endures. The candle guttered and died, leaving the room in soft darkness. Outside, the city slept. You closed your eyes, letting history and memory mingle in quiet, gentle rhythm, carrying you into the eternal rest that only those who have truly endured can know. The mornings are gentler now, marked not by the blare of trumpets or the harsh orders of centurions, but by the soft light of dawn spilling over the rooftops of Rome. The city hums quietly beneath you, waking slowly, each sound familiar yet subtly transformed by the passage of years. You move through your days with a deliberate calm, savoring the rhythm of existence, the quiet unfolding of life after decades of relentless service. You rise from your bed, your joints creaking with the reminders of years spent in armor, in relentless marches, in unyielding discipline. The body remembers what the mind sometimes forgets: the heavy packs, the endless roads, the storms and mud of foreign lands. Yet now, these aches are gentle tutors rather than cruel masters, whispering lessons in patience and endurance. Your breakfast is simple, taken in the courtyard. Bread, a little cheese, olives pressed with care, and watered wine. You savor each bite, aware that sustenance is no longer a survival necessity, but a moment of quiet appreciation. Outside, the city begins to stir. Carts clatter on the stone streets, the cries of merchants echo faintly. Children run along the alleys, chasing one another in games that seem eternal in their innocence. You watch silently, recognizing the continuity of life beyond the walls of history. Your daily routine now includes visits to the young recruits stationed in nearby training grounds. You walk among them, observing the bright eyes and eager movements of boys who have yet to face the harsh truths of combat. You teach them slowly, methodically, not the stories of glory, but the realities of survival, discipline, endurance, patience. These are your gifts to them, the knowledge that time and experience have forged within you. At times, you recount tales of campaigns long past. You describe distant rivers swollen with rain, the forests of Hispania heavy with mist, the valley ambushes where chaos reigned supreme. The recruits listen in rapt silence, some shivering at the thought, others enthralled by the quiet authority in your voice. You notice the fear in their eyes, not an ignoble fear, but the acknowledgement that the world is not safe, that life is both fragile and precious. Afternoons are slower, marked by walks along the riverbanks that you once crossed under threat of arrows and ambushes. The water moves steadily, indifferent, carrying reflections of clouds and sky, occasionally brushing your hands when you kneel at its edge. You feel a kinship with its patience, with its constancy. The river does not hurry, it endures. So too have you endured. In the city, you occasionally encounter familiar faces from campaigns past, fellow veterans who have also returned to civilian life. Their expressions softened by time, their gait slower, measured. Conversations are quiet, reflective, often punctuated by pauses to contemplate shared memories. You speak of lessons learned, of the ineffable weight of command, of comrades lost, of the strange blend of fear and courage that defines a soldier's life. Nights are contemplative. You light a single lamp and watch the shadows dance along the walls of your home. Memories rise and fall like embers in a dying fire. The young boy who first stepped into a legionary camp, his dreams untested. The soldier who endured storms and rivers, whose hands knew the harshness of shield and gladius. The veteran returning to the city, scarred and tempered, carrying the intangible burden of survival. Sleep, when it comes, is deep and layered. You dream not of battle, but of continuity, of the quiet rhythm of life, the flow of rivers, the passage of seasons, the laughter of children you may never have known, the soft hum of the marketplace at dawn. Sometimes those dreams weave together with echoes of the past, the clash of swords, the cries of men, the rhythm of marching feet. Yet these memories no longer strike terror. They are part of the tapestry of your life, reminders of lessons learned and endured. You have begun mentoring not only soldiers, but young citizens, sharing insights about endurance and duty, about the quiet strength required to navigate the world. The children are fascinated by the stories, how Rome moves like a machine, unstoppable and eternal, yet dependent on countless individuals who endure its demands. You emphasize the importance of preparation, of patience, and of resilience. Their faces reflect awe and curiosity, yet you know that only time will reveal the depth of your lessons. Evenings are often spent in reflection along the city's quieter streets, where shadows stretch across cobblestones and the wind carries distant songs of minstrels. You observe the passing lives, the interactions of citizens who know nothing of campaigns, of fear and survival, of endurance. You watch, understanding that history is alive in every step, every gesture, every ordinary life, even when unrecognized. Sometimes a thought comes unbidden, the weight of survival. You recall comrades lost to storms, ambushes, illness, and the relentless cruelty of fate. The memory of their faces is sharp in your mind, softened only by the knowledge that you have lived to carry their stories forward. There is a solemnity to remembrance, a reverence for those who have passed, and a quiet recognition that life is both ephemeral and eternal, fleeting and continuous. You often sit in the quiet of your home, contemplating the city around you. The forum glimmers faintly in the fading light of dusk, its columns casting long shadows. The temples, the arches, the statues, each represents centuries of ambition, devotion, sacrifice, and endurance. You recognize that Rome is not merely buildings or roads. It is a living entity sustained by countless acts of diligence, courage, and survival. Your own life has become one small thread in this vast tapestry, a single rhythm within the unending cadence of the empire. Winter arrives, bringing frost to the streets and a sharp clarity to the air. You watch smoke rise from chimneys, hear the laughter of children playing in the snow, feel the chill on your cheeks. The seasons continue their eternal cycle, indifferent to the struggles of men, yet quietly witnessing all that has been endured. You appreciate the rhythm, the continuity, the persistent flow of time that carries both the living and the memories of the dead. Sometimes, you walk to the training grounds in the early hours, when mist clings to the earth and the world is hushed. You watch new recruits begin their journey, wide-eyed and trembling, unaware of the trials ahead. You remember yourself at that age, eager, naive, untested, and you see in them the continuation of Rome, the perpetual passage of knowledge, discipline, and endurance. You nod quietly, a silent blessing, knowing that they too will learn the rhythm of survival, the unspoken lessons of duty, and the quiet courage of standing firm in the face of fear. Evenings are your own. You light the lamp and sit with scrolls, recording lessons, recounting campaigns, detailing observations. Your writing is meticulous, each line a reflection, each paragraph a meditation. The act itself is a kind of training, a continuation of the discipline you cultivated over decades. It is your way of ensuring that memory endures, that experience is not lost, that the essence of Rome persists through careful, deliberate record-keeping. Night deepens and the city falls silent. The distant hum of the Tiber, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint murmur of the wind through the alleys, all become a lullaby. You close your eyes, feeling the accumulated weight of years, the relief of survival, and the quiet satisfaction of a life lived in alignment with duty. Dreams rise again, not violent, but serene. Flowing rivers, endless roads, the faces of comrades, the faint echo of marching feet fading into eternity. In these hours, you understand fully that survival is not merely a measure of flesh and blood. It is a testament to discipline, endurance, patience, and the acceptance of life's impermanence. You recognize the unbroken thread connecting past, present, and future, the pulse of Rome, the rhythm of the Legion, the quiet constancy of existence. You are a veteran now, and in the stillness of night, you feel the enduring legacy of your life settle around you like a warm cloak. You sleep, finally, fully, the candle flickering low, and the shadows merging into gentle darkness. History continues around you, indifferent, eternal, persistent, and you are a part of it quietly, invisibly, enduring as Rome endures. The sun rises slowly, a golden haze spilling across the rooftops and domes of Rome. The city, alive yet distant, hums with its usual rhythm, the cries of merchants, the chatter of citizens, the soft clatter of carts along the stone-paved streets. And you, older now, feel every year etched into your bones, every scar a quiet echo of battles long past. You move with deliberation, each step a reminder that you have endured, that time has not been wasted but has sculpted your understanding of the world. The mornings are long, slow, and meditative. You rise, the stiffness in your joints, a subtle acknowledgement of decades spent under armor, on distant roads, in storms and battles. You wash your hands in cool water from a clay basin, the liquid a reminder of rivers crossed, streams forded, and the simple truth of living, that life flows onward, indifferent to the trials humans face. Your home is small, modest, yet filled with echoes of a life fully lived. Weapons long since retired from service are mounted carefully along the walls, not as symbols of pride, but as silent testimonies of survival, discipline, and duty. Each piece carries a story, the gladius that cut through the chaos of battle, the shield dented by countless arrows, the sandals worn thin by miles of endless march. They are not trophies. They are companions, witnesses to a journey that few can comprehend. Breakfast is a quiet ritual. Bread, olives, a bit of cheese, and watered wine. Each bite is slow, deliberate, a meditation on sustenance and the simplicity of living after the extremities of war. Outside, the city awakens fully. Children laugh in alleys, their innocent energy a stark contrast to the memories of fear and violence that linger in your mind. You watch them with a mixture of nostalgia and quiet approval, seeing in their energy the unbroken thread of human continuity. Mentorship has become a central rhythm in your days. Young recruits and citizens seek your counsel, drawn by the weight of experience, the authority of someone who has truly seen the demands of life and survived. You teach them not the thrill of combat, not tales of glory, but the unadorned realities, discipline, patience, endurance, and the quiet courage it takes to persevere when the world offers no applause. Your stories of campaigns are vivid yet carefully measured. You recount the rivers swollen with rain, the fog-laden forests of Hispania, the distant cries of ambushed comrades, the clash of iron and the muffled moans of the wounded. You speak not to terrify, but to impart understanding. The recruits listen intently, absorbing lessons that cannot be gleaned from scrolls or training alone. You notice their expressions, some wide-eyed in fear, others in awe of the discipline and courage required. You nod silently, a tacit blessing, knowing they will endure as you did, guided by patience and principle rather than mere desire for glory. Afternoons are contemplative. You wander the city streets, observing the citizens, the markets, the slow rhythm of life. A woman arranges vegetables with care. A man hammers nails into a cart. Children chase each other, squealing with joy. Each ordinary action carries a subtle gravity in your perception, for you have seen the fragility of existence in its rawest form. Life continues, relentless and indifferent, yet vibrant in its persistence. Occasionally, you retreat to the outskirts of the city, walking among olive groves and quiet fields where the wind whispers through tall grasses. Here, far from the constant hum of urban life, the past comes forward gently. You remember the long marches, the sudden ambushes, the rivers that froze under your feet, the storms that battered your body and will. Memories rise like mist, softening with distance yet never fading. You touch the earth with your hands, feeling the continuity of life beneath your fingers, the quiet endurance that parallels your own. Your nights are deliberate. A single lamp illuminates your room, casting flickering shadows against the walls. You record your experiences, not as boasts, but as reflections. The lessons learned, the comrades lost, the endurance demanded, the quiet satisfaction of survival. The act of writing is ritualistic, a bridge between past and present, a way of ensuring that your wisdom endures beyond the confines of memory. Sleep comes slowly, bringing visions both gentle and vivid. You wander again through the forests of distant campaigns, the rivers flowing beneath stormy skies, the hills echoing with the cries of battle. Yet the fear has softened. It no longer grips you. Faces of comrades appear, some lost, some living, their voices gentle, almost approving. You move among them, not as a participant in chaos, but as a witness to the lessons survival has etched into your spirit. You reflect on the subtle ways Rome itself mirrors a soldier's life. It endures because it is disciplined, because it is patient, because it continues regardless of loss and sacrifice. Its structures, its citizens, its enduring presence, all are testament to the principle you have embodied for decades, that survival is not the absence of hardship, but the mastery of endurance. You recognize in yourself the same constancy that defines the empire, unwavering, persistent, quietly formidable. Your walks often take you to temples. Jupiter, Mars, Vesta. You do not pray, but you observe, contemplate, and reflect. The statues, columns, and altars stand as symbols of order and continuity, much like the lessons you carry within yourself. You feel connected to countless soldiers who have walked these streets, stood in these forums, and passed through these gates. Their experiences echo in your consciousness, reinforcing the rhythm of endurance that guides your life. Seasons continue, unrelenting yet gentle. Spring brings blossoms, summer warmth, autumn leaves drifting in silence, winter frost marking quiet passage. You notice details others might overlook: the subtle color of a flower, the distant cry of a bird, the smell of baked bread in the marketplace. Each is a reminder of continuity, of the world's indifference, of life's enduring beauty even amid history's relentless march. The letters from old centurions arrive intermittently, now fewer but treasured all the same. Some recount distant campaigns, new recruits, the unbroken flow of the legion's rhythm. Others inform you of losses, the slow passage of those who served beside you, a reminder of mortality and the cost of endurance. Each letter is folded carefully, read slowly, absorbed as both instruction and meditation on time, history, and memory. Evenings find you at the window, watching the city settle into quiet. The distant hum of the Tiber, the rustle of leaves, the faint murmur of alleys all blend into a gentle symphony, a lullaby for the tired veteran. Memories mingle with observation, reflection with appreciation. You understand fully that the endurance of life, like the endurance of Rome, is quiet, relentless, and ultimately invisible to those who do not pause to notice. You recall the boy who left Rome, eager and naive, the young soldier who faced storms, the veteran who returned, scarred and tempered, and now the elder who walks among the living, carrying decades of wisdom and memory. You see in yourself the full circle of experience. The lesson that survival is not merely physical, but spiritual, emotional, and philosophical. Sleep embraces you gently, with visions of rivers, forests, marching feet fading into distant valleys, and the quiet faces of comrades past. The fears of youth, the chaos of battle, the exhaustion of service, all have softened, become part of a continuum. You are aware that your life, your endurance, and your wisdom are threads woven into the vast tapestry of Rome, quiet yet indelible. In the deep hours of night, when the city rests and the wind whispers through the streets, you feel the pulse of history beneath you, the rhythm of life beyond the immediate, the assurance that survival is both personal and universal, intimate and eternal. You are a soldier of Rome, a witness to endurance, a participant in the eternal flow of existence, quietly blending your story with that of the empire itself. And as you finally surrender to sleep, the candle guttering low, the shadows merging into gentle darkness, you rest knowing fully that Rome endures, and through your life, so too does the quiet, unbroken testament of survival. The dawn rises slowly, spreading a soft golden light across the city of Rome. The streets are quiet, save for the distant clatter of carts and the occasional call of a merchant. You move through them with the measured pace of a man who has walked through decades of storms, battlefields, and endless marches. Each step carries the memory of years, of victories, losses, comrades, and the unrelenting rhythm of duty. You feel every scar, every ache, a reminder of a life lived in constant alignment with the demands of survival and discipline. Your home has become a sanctuary of memory. Weapons, once instruments of war, hang silently along the walls, their steel dulled but still bearing the imprints of history. The gladius, dented and worn, rests next to your shield, which has seen countless arrows bounce harmlessly across its surface. Each piece is not a relic, but a testament to endurance, a witness to the quiet courage that shaped your life. Breakfast is slow and deliberate. Bread, olives, cheese, and watered wine are taken with care, each bite a meditation on sustenance and the continuity of life. Outside, children run through alleys, laughing, chasing each other in games that seem both eternal and fragile. You watch them, sensing the delicate balance of life, the same balance you have learned to navigate over decades. Their innocence is luminous, a stark contrast to the harsh lessons of survival that you carry. Your days are filled with mentorship. You visit training grounds where young recruits practice their drills, their movements awkward and unrefined. You guide them, teaching not tales of glory, but the realities of discipline, endurance, and the quiet courage that defines a soldier's life. You emphasize the importance of patience, the value of preparation, and the necessity of calm under pressure. These are lessons forged in rivers, forests, and battlefields, lessons only lived experience can teach. You recount stories of distant campaigns, carefully measured to impart understanding without fear. The recruits listen with rapt attention. The forests of Hispania, rivers swollen with rain, valleys shrouded in fog, sudden ambushes, the clash of iron, the cries of men, friends and foes alike. You convey not heroism but resilience. The lessons are subtle. Survival is not triumph. Survival is continuity. The young soldiers absorb this, their expressions a mixture of awe and apprehension. You see the reflection of yourself at their age, wide-eyed and untested, and nod quietly in recognition. Afternoons are contemplative. You walk through the quiet streets, observing the city in its rhythm. Merchants arranging goods, bakers kneading dough, children laughing and running. Each moment carries significance, a reminder of continuity, of life persisting quietly, even as history moves inexorably forward. You recognize the fragility and resilience of existence, the delicate dance between chaos and order that defines both human life and the empire itself. Sometimes, you retreat to the outskirts of Rome, walking along rivers and through olive groves. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying the scent of earth and foliage. Here, away from the noise of the city, the past surfaces gently. Memories of marches, rivers crossed, ambushes, and victories. These recollections rise like mist, softening with distance yet sharp with clarity. You place your hand on the earth, feeling the continuity of life beneath your fingers. The same earth that has witnessed countless generations, battles, and lives. Evenings are a ritual of reflection. A single lamp illuminates your home, casting flickering shadows across walls lined with memories. You write, recording experiences, lessons, and reflections. Each line is deliberate, each paragraph a meditation on endurance, discipline, and the continuity of life. Writing becomes a bridge between past and present, ensuring that the knowledge and wisdom accumulated over decades will endure beyond memory. Sleep arrives with visions of both the past and the eternal flow of time. You wander through forests and valleys, rivers reflecting stormy skies, hills echoing with the cries of battle. The fear that once gripped you has softened, replaced by understanding and acceptance. Faces of comrades appear, some lost, some living, their voices soft and approving. You move among them, not as a participant in chaos, but as a witness to the enduring lessons of survival and duty. You reflect on the nature of Rome itself. Its endurance mirrors the lessons you have learned. The city, like a seasoned soldier, continues regardless of loss, building upon past triumphs and tragedies alike. Each stone, each citizen, each structure is a testament to the quiet, unbroken rhythm of persistence. You feel a kinship with this continuity, recognizing that your life, too, is part of this vast, enduring tapestry. Seasons flow with unerring regularity. Spring brings blossoms, summer warmth, autumn leaves falling silently, winter frost marking the passage of time. You observe details unnoticed by others. The subtle color of a flower, the distant call of a bird, the smell of baked bread. Each is a reminder of the delicate persistence of life, of beauty, and of history's quiet endurance. Letters from former centurions arrive intermittently. They recount distant campaigns, new recruits, the Legion's unbroken rhythm. Occasionally, they report losses, comrades passing quietly, their names added to the ledger of memory. These letters are cherished, read slowly, absorbed as meditations on life, mortality, and the lessons of endurance. Evenings are spent at the window, watching Rome settle into quiet. The hum of the Tiber, the rustle of leaves, the faint murmur of distant alleys, all become a symphony for reflection. You meditate on survival, on life, on the enduring pulse of the city, the empire, and your place within it. You understand fully that survival is more than physical. It is emotional, philosophical, and spiritual. It is a rhythm that must be maintained, silently and patiently, over decades. You recall the young boy who left Rome eager for glory, the soldier hardened by battle, the veteran returning scarred and tempered, and now the elder observing life with quiet understanding. You perceive the full circle of existence, growth, endurance, reflection, and contribution to the unbroken flow of history. Survival, you understand, is not just a personal triumph, but a thread woven into the vast tapestry of human continuity. At night, the city sleeps. The streets are silent, the wind whispering gently through stone alleys, carrying the distant hum of life. You feel the pulse of history beneath your feet, the rhythm of time, the assurance that survival, when lived fully and mindfully, transcends mortality. You are a soldier of Rome, a witness to endurance, a participant in the eternal current of existence. Sleep comes deeply now, unhurried, carrying you into dreams of rivers, forests, marching feet, and the faces of comrades past. Fear is softened, replaced by serenity. You are part of the eternal flow of Rome, a thread woven into its enduring fabric, and in this realization, you rest fully, peacefully, assured in the continuity of life and history. The morning comes softly now, as if the world itself hesitates to disturb your sleep. The light that filters through the narrow window is diffused, golden and gentle. You wake slowly, as one who has learned that haste is unnecessary. There is no trumpet calling for formation, no centurion's bark demanding order. The days of alarm and urgency are far behind you. What remains is a long, measured rhythm, the calm after a lifetime of storms. You sit up slowly, the weight of years resting on your shoulders. The air smells faintly of olive oil and dust, of parchment and aging timber. Your home is simple, a quiet refuge tucked among the winding lanes of Rome's older quarter. The walls are lined with memories, some tangible, like the gladius that once defined your hand's purpose, others invisible, etched only into the folds of your mind. Your fingers trace the edge of the wooden table as you pour water into a small cup. You sip slowly, feeling the coolness spread through you. This act, so ordinary, so small, feels profound. After a lifetime of surviving through storms, thirst, hunger, and fear, to drink clean water in peace feels like a luxury beyond measure. Outside, the world continues its eternal routine. The faint echo of hooves on cobblestones, merchants calling out from the marketplace, a distant laugh from a group of children chasing each other through narrow alleys. These sounds reach you like music from another world. You listen with quiet appreciation. They are reminders that Rome endures, vibrant, noisy, alive, even as you move toward silence. You walk slowly to your courtyard, the morning light brushing across your face. The garden is small but cared for, olive trees, a few vines, and a single fig tree that has grown alongside your years. Its roots are deep, its branches broad. You planted it long ago, when your hair was still dark and your back straight. You touch its bark now, feeling the life pulsing within it. Time has made you similar, scarred, sturdy, still alive. Your days are quiet, structured around simple rituals. You eat when the sun is high, rest when it is warm, and write in the afternoons. The scrolls before you are filled with reflections, not stories of glory, but meditations on endurance. You write of how the Legion teaches patience, how fear can be a teacher, how the body endures through discipline, and how the soul survives through acceptance. You do not expect anyone to read these words, yet you write as if Rome itself were listening. When you walk through the city, citizens sometimes recognize you. They nod respectfully, perhaps noticing the faint scar that runs from your temple to your jaw, or the worn medal hanging discreetly from a leather cord. Children whisper stories about the old soldier who fought in distant lands. You smile faintly but never correct them. The truth, the endless marches, the sleepless nights, the fear and exhaustion, is too vast for simple retelling. It belongs to time now. Afternoons bring stillness. The heat settles over the city like a soft blanket. You sit in the shade, eyes half closed, and drift between wakefulness and memory. Sometimes the sounds of present life, carts rolling, dogs barking, people haggling, blend seamlessly with echoes from the past. The clash of shields, the cries of wounded men, the command shouted over chaos. The boundaries blur, and you find yourself standing once more on the banks of a foreign river, surrounded by faces you both remember and have long forgotten. You speak to them sometimes, not aloud, but in thought. To the comrades who fell in faraway lands, to the centurion who taught you discipline, to the friend whose laughter once broke the monotony of endless campaigns. You wonder where their souls have gone, whether they too drift in quiet reflection somewhere beyond time. You hope that, in some unseen realm, the Legion still marches, not to conquer, but to endure. Evenings come earlier now. You light your small oil lamp and sit by the window. The flickering flame casts long, shifting shadows on the walls, reminding you of the campfires that once dotted distant hillsides. Those flames were brighter, restless, alive with the tension of men awaiting battle. This one burns low and steady, the flame of peace. You take comfort in small routines. You polish your armor not to prepare for war, but as an act of remembrance. Each dent, each mark is a story. The helmet that once gleamed in the sun now rests like an artifact of another life. You run your hand along its curve, remembering the weight of it, the sweat beneath it, the sound it carried, the heartbeat of survival. Sometimes young men come to visit you. They seek wisdom, guidance, perhaps a touch of the old soldier's mystery. You listen more than you speak. When you do, your voice is low, deliberate, patient. You tell them that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the quiet decision to keep moving despite it. You tell them that survival is not a gift but a craft, honed through endurance and humility. You tell them that Rome's strength lies not in her swords, but in her patience, her discipline, her ability to endure through centuries. They listen, wide-eyed, as if hearing sacred truth. And perhaps they are, for these lessons are not taught in schools or forums. They are lived, one step, one scar, one quiet victory at a time. As night deepens, you often find yourself reflecting on time itself. It is a strange companion, invisible, unstoppable, indifferent. It has taken comrades, youth, strength, yet left you with wisdom in exchange. You no longer resent its passage. You see now that everything, even the empire, is bound by its rhythm. You sometimes visit the Tiber River. You stand at its edge, watching the slow current carry leaves and fragments of light. The river never stops. It moves endlessly, indifferent yet eternal. You understand it now better than ever. You are like it, shaped by what you have carried, scarred by what you have endured, always moving, always alive, even in stillness. On certain nights, when the moon is high and the city sleeps, you hear the faint echo of drums. Perhaps it is memory, perhaps imagination, but it feels real. The rhythm of the Legion, the synchronized steps of soldiers moving across unknown lands. You close your eyes and walk with them again, your old body forgotten, your spirit once more young and strong. The march continues across hills and valleys, across centuries and silence. You wake sometimes from these visions with tears on your cheeks, though you cannot say whether they are tears of sorrow or peace. The past no longer haunts you. It accompanies you like an old friend. The seasons change. Winter returns, and with it, a deep stillness. You sit closer to the fire, wrapped in wool. The world outside grows quiet. You feel your strength waning, but not your clarity. In your dreams, the line between life and memory has thinned to transparency. You see the faces of those who have gone before you, their eyes kind, their smiles faint, their forms shimmering like mist. You speak softly to them in your sleep. "I am coming," you whisper, though you do not rush. You are not afraid. Death, you understand now, is not an enemy, but a reunion. One evening, you return from the river and sit by your table. You light the lamp, open the final scroll, and begin to write. Your hand trembles, but your words are steady. You write not about battle or endurance, but about peace. You write that survival, in its truest form, is not about living forever, but about leaving behind understanding, a whisper that carries through time. The candle burns low. The ink dries. You lean back, listening to the faint hum of the city, the murmured prayers, the rustle of night wind, the steady pulse of life. And then, for the first time in years, you feel utterly light. Your body relaxes. The ache in your bones fades. Your breathing slows. You close your eyes, and in that moment, the past returns one final time, not as noise, not as pain, but as music. You hear the slow rhythm of marching feet, the rustle of banners, the soft voice of your centurion calling your name. You rise in your mind, strong again, the gladius firm in your hand, your armor gleaming beneath a golden sky. You walk once more with the legion, not into battle, but into eternity. The same disciplined stride, the same quiet courage, the same rhythm of endurance that has carried you all your life. Outside, the wind moves softly through the olive trees. The flame flickers once, then fades. And Rome, eternal and unbroken, breathes on. The morning after his final breath arrives quietly, as if the world itself has paused to listen. The first light of dawn spills across the cobblestones, touching the threshold of a humble Roman home where an old soldier's lamp has gone cold. The city does not mourn aloud. Rome rarely does. Yet, there is a subtle shift in the air, a silence between sounds, a faint echo where his steady breathing once filled the night. The olive trees in his courtyard stand motionless. The fig tree he planted so many decades ago bends slightly in the wind, as though bowing. Its leaves shimmer in pale sunlight, whispering secrets to the morning. The house is still, but not empty. There remains something, an invisible warmth, a lingering gravity, the quiet residue of a life lived with purpose. A young neighbor, the son of a potter, is the first to notice. He finds the old soldier seated by the table, head bowed slightly, a faint smile on his lips. The scrolls lie open before him, the ink on the last line just dry. The words are simple. All that we endure, we become. He calls for help, and soon the small courtyard fills with murmurs. Neighbors gather in hushed voices, not in panic, but in reverence. They know him not as a hero, but as a man who lived simply, who rose with the dawn, tended his garden, told stories of endurance, and taught without seeking disciples. Yet among them a strange calm settles. It feels as though something vast and invisible has just passed through their midst. The city continues its rhythm. Markets open, bells ring, the Tiber glimmers beneath the rising sun. Life moves on, relentless and unknowing, as it always does. Yet, in one corner of Rome, an old legionary's departure leaves a faint ripple, one that will echo quietly for generations. The potter's son keeps the last scroll. He cannot yet read, but he senses its weight. He watches as elders wrap the soldier's body in a simple cloth. No ornaments, no parade. Just the dignity of stillness. The gladius rests beside him, its blade dulled by time, its edge long at peace. His armor is left unpolished, as he wished, bearing the patina of years, the soft gleam of a life earned, not displayed. At dusk, the funeral pyre is built outside the city gates, near the old road that once led legions eastward. The air smells of pine and olive oil. A small crowd gathers, soldiers, craftsmen, a few scholars, and children. There are no speeches, no trumpets, only the sound of fire crackling as the first flame catches. The sky darkens slowly. Embers rise like stars. The heat swells and the air hums softly. The boy watches, eyes wide, as smoke curls upward into the deepening blue. For a moment it seems to take shape, like the outline of a man standing tall, facing toward some unseen horizon. And then it disperses, mingling with the wind that drifts toward the hills. Night comes. Rome glows faintly beneath the moon. Somewhere, in a distant barracks, a young recruit sits polishing his armor. He does not know why, but he feels a sudden stillness in his chest, a sense of presence, of quiet guidance. He looks up at the stars and imagines the voices of those who came before him. Perhaps, somewhere in that vast unseen legion, the spirit of the old soldier walks again, unseen but near. Days turn to weeks. The boy returns often to the place where the pyre burned. The grass grows there now, bright and alive. He brings the scroll with him, though he cannot read it. He simply sits in silence, tracing the letters with his fingers. The words become a kind of prayer. All that we endure, we become. As years pass, that boy learns to write, then to teach. He keeps the scroll safe, and in his later years, copies its lines onto new parchment. The text spreads, not as scripture, not as history, but as quiet wisdom shared among men who seek meaning in their endurance. Centuries later, when the empire itself begins to crumble, when marble cracks and banners fall, those same words will still whisper through the ruins. All that we endure, we become. It becomes more than a phrase. It becomes Rome itself, a quiet creed of survival through centuries of change. The legions fall, but the rhythm they carried, the discipline, the patience, the endurance lingers like a heartbeat beneath the skin of time. In the far future, scholars will discover fragments of his writings, preserved in dust and clay. They will read his reflections, not as commands or chronicles, but as meditations. They will find that he wrote less about conquest and more about understanding, about how war teaches peace, how fear gives birth to courage, how mortality teaches eternity. One passage, written in the shaky hand of his final years, will be quoted often. To survive is not to triumph, nor to resist alone. It is to understand that even in pain, there is purpose, that even in stillness, there is life. It will be read by thinkers long after Rome's glory has faded, by monks in cold monasteries, by philosophers under candlelight, by dreamers seeking meaning in the night. His name may not survive, but his voice will. And time, patient as ever, will carry his memory in ways no monument could. The empire changes. Centuries turn, the marble fades. Yet in quiet corners of the world, soldiers and poets alike still feel the same invisible lineage, that ancient, enduring thread that began with men who marched beneath the eagle standard, who learned to live and die in rhythm with something greater than themselves. The Roman roads remain, worn smooth by countless steps. The stones still bear the faint grooves of cartwheels, the imprints of sandals long turned to dust. If you walk those roads today at dawn, when the mist still clings to the earth, you might feel it, the faint vibration beneath your feet, a whisper through stone and soil, the pulse of endurance. Sometimes, in that silence, it feels as though the earth itself remembers, every command shouted across a field, every heartbeat that echoed beneath a helmet, every man who once looked toward the horizon and wondered if he'd see another sunrise. The empire may be gone, but the spirit that built it, the quiet discipline, the stoic patience, the will to keep walking, endures in humanity itself. And perhaps that was always the true victory. Not the conquests, not the marble, not the glory sung in temples, but the simple act of enduring. The boy who became a teacher grows old. He reads from the scroll one last time before placing it in a sealed jar, hidden beneath the stones of a crumbling villa. He whispers the same words once spoken by the soldier who inspired him. May what we have endured endure beyond us. He smiles the same quiet, contented smile that once graced the face of the old legionary and lets the world move on. Centuries later, the jar is unearthed. Archaeologists unseal it, brush away dust, and unroll the ancient parchment. The ink is faint but legible. The first line reads, "Could you survive as a soldier of Rome?" And below it, in smaller script, you already have. Every day you endure, you march with us. The discovery stirs curiosity, then awe. Historians debate its origin, poets quote it, philosophers meditate on its simplicity, and somewhere, beyond the reach of time and reason, the old soldier's voice stirs once more, not as echo, but as presence. He walks again through endless fields of light, alongside his comrades. No pain, no fatigue, only the rhythm of steps that continue forever. The sound of sandals brushing the dust, shields clinking faintly, the eternal cadence of survival. The horizon is endless, the air golden, the banners fluttering in a wind that never dies. And as they march, the voice of the centurion rises, calm, measured, timeless. Legion, forward. The ground hums softly, the light deepens, and Rome, not the city, but the idea, moves onward through eternity.